Hey everybody, welcome into Folklore and Flourish. Today is April 15th. You're here with Jane over at Blue Box 29. Super cute. I got us matching bracelets. We always struggle with I know he struggles a lot more with them constantly ripping off or falling off because they're not as good quality of material. For whatever reason, they just don't last. I think it is just the quality of the material, but anyways, that's what that is. But today is April 15th. Today is all about the trap. Today we have entered into our brand new week for April. This week is all about the danger. So April is all about our hidden worlds, so our fae and hidden worlds, and it's the archetype of the veil walker. So people that go in and out of the other world. Last week we were in the other realm, just focusing on all the different aspects of it. Now this week we've jumped into the danger. Now spring is all about renewal and creation, fresh cycles. So spring is all about the new beginnings, but April itself, with the month of the Fae and Hidden Realms, it's also about crossing thresholds, the glamour and illusions, spirit bargains, lost time, enchantments, hidden helpers, and returning change. But today we start off with week 3 of the danger. Today is all about the trap. So with the trap today, we have 4 stories as usual, and the theme is ensnarement by enchantment. So we're going to look at ensnarement by enchantment. So we're going to look at that through 4 folklore stories today, and that's going to be Irish, Hopi, Slavic, and German. So enjoy these 4 stories on the trap. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. Story 1, Fairy Traps, the Lure of the Hidden Realm. Within the rich tapestry of Irish folklore, the world of the East Sidhe, the fairy folk, exists alongside the human realm, separated only by a delicate veil that can be crossed through moments of enchantment and vulnerability. And throughout Ireland's mythic landscape, stories abound of individuals who were drawn into the fae world through seemingly innocent beauty, such as enchanting music, shimmering lights, or inviting rings of mushrooms known as fairy rings, which were believed to mark portals to the other world. Rooted in ancient Celtic traditions, these tales served as both spiritual reflections and cautionary lessons, warning that the allure of the supernatural often concealed hidden dangers. For those who stepped into a fairy ring or accepted an invitation from the Sidhe might find themselves ensnared in a realm where time flowed differently, sometimes returning moments later to discover that years had passed in the human world, or in some cases, never returned at all. One well-known legend tells of a traveler who, upon hearing irresistible music in a moonlit glade, followed the sound into a circle of dancing fairies and joined their revelry, only to awaken later to dawn to find himself alone and aged, his life having slipped away during what felt like a single night, illustrating the deceptive nature of enchantment and the peril of surrendering awareness to beauty without discernment. Irish folklore also speaks of fairy paths, invisible routes believed to be traveled by the fairy folk between ancient mounds and sacred sites, and it was considered deeply unwise to build homes or roads across these pathways, as doing so could invite misfortune or supernatural interference. reinforcing the belief that the Fey realm demanded respect and mindful boundaries. Offerings of milk, bread, or honey were sometimes left near these liminal spaces as gestures of goodwill, acknowledging the presence of unseen beings and fostering harmonious coexistence. Symbolically, fairy traps represent the seductive power of illusion and the human tendency to become ensnared by beauty, desire, or escapism. Reminding listeners that enchantment often tests one's awareness and discernment. These narratives emphasize that liberation from such traps do not come through force, but through mindfulness, respect for boundaries, and an understanding of the unseen forces that shape experience. Ultimately, the legend of fairy traps reveals that while the other world holds profound mystery and allure, it also serves as a mirror reflecting the importance of remaining grounded in one's own reality, perfectly embodying the theme of ensnarement. By enchantment and reinforcing the lesson that beauty can indeed be bait. Story 2, Spider Woman, the weaver of wisdom and pathways. Within the sacred traditions of the Hopi people of the American Southwest, Spider Woman, known as Koikyang stands as one of the most revered and complex spiritual figures, embodying both the creative power of weaving and the symbolic nature of entanglement. And rather than representing danger alone, Spider Woman is understood as a guiding ancestral presence who teaches humanity how to navigate the intricate web of existence with awareness and balance. In Hopi cosmology, she played a vital role in the emergence of humanity into the present world, assisting the people as they journeyed through successive realms and guiding them safely to the surface of the fourth world, often providing sacred instructions and protective wisdom along the way. Spider Woman is also credited with teaching the Hopi the art of weaving, an essential cultural practice that symbolizes harmony, interconnectedness, and the delicate balance of life's relationships, with each thread representing a path or decision within the greater tapestry of existence. Her association with the web offers a profound metaphor for the theme of ensnarement by enchantment. While webs can entangle and immobilize, within Hopi understanding, they more often signify guidance, structure, and the interconnected nature of all living things. Spider Woman is believed to watch over travelers and children, offering protection and direction. And in some traditions, she provides a spiritual thread that individuals must follow to remain aligned with their rightful path. This dual symbolism emphasizes that entrapment is not always imposed from outside forces. Rather, it can arise from losing awareness within the complexity of life's web. Through her teachings, individuals are encouraged to move with intention and mindfulness, recognizing that the same threads that can ensnare can also lead to liberation when navigated with wisdom. Spider Woman's presence is also reflected in Hopi ceremonial life, where weaving and textile patterns serve not only practical purposes, but also spiritual ones, encoding cosmological knowledge and reinforcing communal identity. The reverence shown toward her highlights the importance of balance between creativity and responsibility, reminding individuals that beauty and structure must be approached with respect and understanding. Symbolically, Spider Woman represents the awareness necessary to recognize when one is caught in illusion or imbalance, and the wisdom required to gently disentangle oneself. Ultimately, the story of Spider Woman reveals that true liberation does not come from forcefully breaking free of life's webs, but from understanding their design and purpose. Her teachings align seamlessly with the lesson that beauty can be bait. Yet they also offer hope by demonstrating that awareness and wisdom transform potential traps into pathways of growth and harmony, reinforcing the idea that recognition is the first step toward freedom. Story 3, The Snow Queen, the Enchantment of Frozen Beauty. Within the rich tapestry of Eastern European and Slavic folklore, the figure of the Snow Queen embodies the mesmerizing yet perilous allure of beauty that conceals emotional captivity, representing the theme of ensnarement by enchantment and reinforcing the lesson that beauty can indeed be bait. While polarized in Western literature through Hans Christian Andersen's 1844 tale, The Snow Queen, the archetype draws upon older Slavic winter spirits, such as Morosko and Snieg Rachka, beings associated with the stillness, danger, and hypnotic beauty of winter landscapes. In Andersen's narrative, the Snow Queen appears as a radiant and ethereal figure whose icy perfection captivates young boy Kai, who becomes emotionally imprisoned after a fragment of an enchanted mirror lodges in his heart. causing him to perceive the world through a lens of cold logic and detachment. Drawn to her palace of eternal winter, Kai becomes ensnared not through force, but through the seductive promise of clarity, perfection, and freedom from emotional pain. The Snow Queen's realm, glittering with crystalline beauty and silent stillness, symbolizes the danger of emotional numbness and the temptation to retreat into isolation when confronted with life's complexities. Gerda's unwavering journey to rescue Kai introduces a counterbalance to this enchantment, illustrating that liberation from such traps arises through love, perseverance, and emotional warmth rather than confrontation or force. Throughout her quest, Gerda encounters figures and environments that test her resolve, each representing different forms of distraction or entrapment. Yet, her steadfast compassion ultimately melts the icy barrier surrounding Kai's heart. This narrative reflects broader Slavic themes in which winter spirits embody both the harsh realities of nature and the transformative potential of endurance and renewal. The Snow Queen's beauty is therefore not inherently malevolent. The Snow Queen's beauty is therefore not inherently malevolent, but serves as a symbolic reminder of the human tendency to become ensnared by illusions of perfection, emotional detachment, or the desire to escape vulnerability. Symbolically, the Snow Queen represents psychological and emotional captivity, emphasizing that enchantment often operates subtly, drawing individuals into states of stillness and disconnection, rather than overt imprisonment. Her story aligns seamlessly with the theme of the trap, demonstrating that the most powerful forms of ensnarement are those that appear alluring and protective. Ultimately, the legend reveals that awareness, emotional connection, and compassion are the keys to liberation, encouraging individuals to recognize where they may be captivated by beauty or illusion, and to seek warmth and authenticity as pathways to freedom. Story 4: Enchanted Forests, the Bewitching Paths of the Grim Woods. Within the folklore of Germany, the forest has long been regarded as a liminal and enchanted space where the boundaries between the human and supernatural realm blur, embodying both refuge and peril. And in the tales later collected by the Brothers Grimm, the Wald, or forest, function as a powerful symbol of ensnarement by enchantment, drawing travelers into landscapes where beauty and danger coexist in delicate tension. These dense woodlands, inspired by the ancient forests of Central Europe, such as the Black Forest, Schwarzwald, were historically places of mystery and uncertainty, and within the mythic imagination they became inhabited by witches, spirits, and magical forces, capable of misleading or trapping those who venture too deeply within. Stories such as Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, and Snow White illustrate how the forest's alluring beauty can conceal hidden threats. Hansel and Gretel are lured by the irresistible sweetness of the witch's gingerbread house, a manifestation of temptation that ensnares them. Little Red Riding Hood is diverted from her path by the wolf's cunning deception amidst the tranquil woodland setting, and Snow White finds refuge in the forest only to encounter repeated attempts on her life, demonstrating that enchantment often masks underlying danger. In Germanic myth, the forest also represents a psychological journey into the unknown, where individuals confront trials that test awareness and discernment. And while it can entrap the unwary, it simultaneously offers the potential for transformation and self-discovery when navigated with wisdom. The recurring motif of losing one's way within the woods reflects the human experience of becoming captivated by illusion, desire, or distraction, reinforcing the lesson that beauty can indeed serve as bait when approached without mindfulness. Symbolically, the enchanted forest is not inherently malevolent, but functions as a mirror of the inner landscape, revealing both vulnerability and resilience. And liberation from its traps arises through awareness, courage, and adherence to one's guided path. Ultimately, the enduring presence of enchanted forests within German folklore underscores the understanding that the most profound forms of ensnarement are often subtle and alluring, inviting individuals to cultivate discernment and respect for the unseen forces that shape their journeys, perfectly aligning with the theme of the trap. Hey everybody, welcome back in. Hope you enjoyed those 4 stories on the trap. Like we said, today we started off a brand new week of April. It is week 3, the danger within the Fae and hidden realms. So we're on the archetype of the Veil Walker. We're looking at the dangers within the other realm. And today we started off right away with the trap. So our theme is ensnarement by enchantment, and our lesson is beauty can be bait. So we start that off right away with the Irish telling of the fairy traps, the lure into the hidden realms. So this one is talking about how just because something is playful, enchanting, beautiful, doesn't mean that it's always a good or a helpful entity. Sometimes, just like we say in the Irish telling, the she, if we are ignorant or we're not paying attention, the time can travel pretty fast. So even just being distracted is a trap within itself. I really liked and thought it was interesting that the idea of the circle, the fairy rings being rings of mushrooms, I wonder if that has anything to do with potentially the psychedelic aspects of mushrooms and how it is otherworldly when taking the ones with psilocybin or whatever the actual chemical is. But anyways, wondered if that's potentially part of it as well, is in the past when those kind of mushrooms have been eaten, it felt like you were transported into another realm. I've seen mushrooms out in nature and they grow in groups. It's usually not just one sitting there. And so I just thought that was interesting how far back plant medicine goes as well and how we have connected it with some interconnectedness. Mushrooms, fungi like that, they connect everything together. So again, the things that connect everything truly connect everything in every physical reality, whether it's the other world or our current world. The cultural significance of the fairy traps is that they symbolize the seductive and potentially dangerous allure of the other world, emphasizing the importance of awareness, respect for liminal spaces, and the discernment when encountering beauty that may conceal hidden consequences. With that, as well, we have our important note is that not all beauty is meant to be followed. Awareness and respect for unseen boundaries are the first steps towards freedom. Again, sometimes just that distraction is the trap within itself. I think it's interesting that in different shows, depictions, I was thinking of the Avatar, the Last Airbender cartoon, when they're in that giant forest and they're all being distracted by something. They're all following something different. Toph, Katara, Aang, they're all following different things, these illusions, and they're wasting all this time, not knowing that time's even going by because it travels differently in realms with that sacred nature in it. So it also be aware of your environment, be aware of your circumstances and what's going on around you. And with that, in story 2, we go into the Spider Woman of the Hopi. Um, I thought that this was interesting that it's not only the sticky nature of spider webs within themselves where you can get trapped or caught up in stuff, but the interconnectedness again. So the interconnectedness of the world and how all of our stories intertwine. I also really enjoyed, we see over in, I believe it's Africa, Anansi, another spider deity that is little bit of a teacher in their own way. We see this Spider Woman as a creator, protector, and teacher. So it's interesting to see how spiders, even on the global scale, are also weavers. They are the weavers of destiny, right? The weavers of fate, the weaver of all these different things, because it is so intricate. So with that, their cultural significance is that they are creator, protector, and teacher who symbolize interconnectedness, guidance, and the wisdom required to navigate life's complexities with awareness and balance. The important note with them is that the threads that seem to bind us may also guide us. With awareness, every web can become a pathway to understanding. That flip of it's not just one or the other, but it's also both sometimes was very interesting with this as well. And it makes sense. So we sometimes think that we're trapped in a web, that we're trapped in a circumstance, not really understanding well, first of all, sometimes not wanting to take accountability in how we got there. Sometimes it is just happenstance that we get there. But we kind of have this awareness of, okay, well, now we're here. And now, if we take a second to pause, like this is telling us, sometimes these opportunities where we're stuck are really just that, opportunities to where we can see the different pathways, the different way that they connect to different outcomes, or different possibilities moving forward. I really liked that. Story 3, The Snow Queen. So, Story 3, The Snow Queen, this is the danger and the enchantment of the wintry stillness. I talked to Mark about this. This is actually one of my favorite, not the story itself, but the winter stillness, that quiet calm, I guess, where you can literally hear the birds walking across the crispy snow, or when you hear a bird at all, you can see the breath coming up as well as it's echoing around the entire valley. I just love that feeling. But this one, it took that and emphasized the danger on if we allow that to be our entire persona, our entire livelihood. Mark and I have listened to some music where people reference it as northern attitudes. So being raised in the cold, and no, not that everyone born in the north, everyone born in the cold has negative or cold or off-putting attitudes or personalities. It's just saying that when we embody that within ourselves, it is quiet and still, and it can be dangerous. Always approaching the world through that lens, because it tempts us to rely on that. It tempts us to rely on that in order to avoid what the other items may bring, what the other emotions, what the other ideas may bring if they don't work out in our favor. But this one also reminds us the dangers of going into the isolation, and how sometimes we do need the help of other people to get us through. And it's not that they change the landscape of, oh, it's not winter anymore, but somehow it's more tolerable. Somehow we can see spring arising. We can see the potential of things coming back. We just have to make it through. We have to remember that the cold is just a transition, just like the heat is. They both are necessary for each other to keep going. And then with the cultural significance of the third story with our Snow Queen, the Snow Queen symbolizes the seductive nature of emotional detachment and the illusion of perfection, reflecting the broader Slavic understanding of winter as both a beautiful and potentially perilous force. So, kind of like what we just said, winter outside as well as within us. It's just like the heat. We don't want to always be burning with that constant passion or that rage or that fire, because then there's so many cracks. There's so many different areas we're not tending to, aspects of ourselves or taking care of ourselves, to where it'll eventually die out, burn out, and we're stuck there going, I don't know what to do, or I'm just going to sleep, go into this depressive slump. It's just all of these different aspects of us. It's important to cater to all of them. Yes, acknowledge them, but don't give in to the temptation of letting that become their whole identity. And then story 4, I like story 4 because it just talks about the enchanted forest in general. We've seen the enchanted forest in almost any folklore mythology, but the essence of it in the Grimm fairy tales. So the Grimm Woods, Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel. What was the other one that is? Oh, and Snow White. Of course, Snow White. That's a book that we did, and this one I forgot about. But just how wandering off, there are dangers in the woods, no matter what, right? So we see with Hansel and Gretel, the brother and sister wandering into the woods without the parental protection, just having older, wiser people around. Little Red Riding Hood, not following directions, not listening to understanding the importance of them and the deception. It's not that, oh, you're dumb, so follow this step by step. It's, there are things out there that want to harm us, that want to throw us off track. Please listen when warnings are given. And elders, that have been around, they know them, they've seen them, they understand the dangers of not listening to them. And then we also see the flip side of Snow White, where when retreating and when it's your only circumstance, sometimes the woods offer you help. Sometimes they are a sanctuary or protection, but they don't always protect us from all harm. Sometimes when those malevolent forces get into the forest, they're causing just as much chaos. Yes, they can be thrown off track and forced to kind of get confused or lost. We see that in a lot of forests around the world. The creepy, eerie aspects where it seems like you go in circles. We see it in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies. When they're distracted, they're taken off the path, and they're confused. This spiritual stuff, that's exactly how it is. When we go into, it doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult, when you go into the woods and you don't know the landscape, I mean, You don't have the landscape memorized. You're kind of just in this, you're victim to your circumstances. You are, I mean, ultimately victim to the forest itself. And so this says, just proceed with caution, proceed with acknowledgement to the forces that are out there, that yes, there are forces out there that are potentially going to want to hurt you. And when they take you away from the group, once they have you distracted, catch us off guard, that's when they strike. The cultural significance for the Grimm stories is just that enchanted forests symbolize liminal spaces of transformation, where beauty and danger coexist, reflecting the importance of awareness and discernment when navigating the unknown. And then our important note for that is when beauty diverts us from our path, awareness becomes the key that leads us safely through the woods. So, April 15th, the trap, our daily thread is that fairy paths shimmer, inviting the unwary into hidden realms. Spider Woman's web reveals both guidance and entanglement. The Snow Queen's beauty freezes hearts in silent captivity. Enchanted forests whisper, diverting travelers from their path. Each snare is woven from illusion rather than force. Each escape begins with the recognition of the threat. Awareness unravels what enchantment seeks to bind. Freedom emerges the moment the spell is seen. So, with our theme of ensnarement by enchantment and our topic of the trap, our lesson today was that beauty can be bait. So, we saw that through the Irish, Hopi, Slavic, and German folklore. Our question of the day, my reflection question is, where have I been quietly trapped? So reflect on your life today, especially with spring. It just snowed here the other day for us. We still have snow on the ground. But stepping out and breathing in that cold air, I've kind of been reflecting on that myself of where have I been quietly trapped? In my own mind, where am I trapping myself? With Mark's QHHT, that's been a huge thing for us, is that hypnosis, that aspect of what's making me struggle within my own mind. What am I blocking myself from? With that today, your activity is to untangle something physical, moving slowly and deliberately. So untangle something physical, shoelace, headphones, there are so many different things, and move it slowly and deliberately. And then I'm going to leave you with the final thought to notice where release begins with awareness rather than force. And I can hear Mark coming in. So I'm going to leave you with that. And thank you guys for joining me today on Folklore and Flourish. Again, it was the trap for April 15th, and I'll see you tomorrow.